You're live. Yay. Okay. Awesome. Cool. I should probably be looking at the camera here, but I have a multi thing here. Let's move you down. We're going to move you down into the screen. There we go. Oh, did that work? I don't know if it did. What have I done? Done something silly. There we go. You know, I called this the Chaotic Writers Club for a reason. I'm just keeping on brand by starting this live in a really chaotic way. Welcome everyone to the Chaotic Writers Club. This is something that I'm hoping is going to be an ongoing thing that we can do monthly or every so often to talk about bookish things, writing, publishing, answering questions. Hello. Um, and this month, I wanted to talk about writing challenge prep because we've got the next 3-day 30K writing challenge coming up, and I'm very excited about it. So it's already time to start thinking about the 3-day 30K challenge. If anybody wants to join us, um, yeah, that is coming up on November 15th. It's over the course of 3 days. Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm going to be writing 30K, but you don't have to write 30K. You can just come and get some writing done. You can set a goal for however much you want, but we'll talk about goal setting in a second because I have some tips and advice on how to set a sizable, challenging, but not impossible goal for you as well. But yeah, thanks everyone. Hello everyone. Thanks for coming along to the live. But yeah, no, I kind of wanted to create a space and maybe start doing some ongoing lives. Because I think it's good to have a space for writers to connect. It can be kind of a solitary job, and I think a lot of us, especially neurodivergent writers, don't always have like these groups where we can chat and share tips and tricks and different things that work for us and our brains. I think there's a lot of really great neurotypical writing advice already out there, but I found for me it doesn't work for me at all. And so I needed a new kind of thing. And so I slowly over time have been developing these new tools and strategies. And one of the things that I do is these really short, really intense writing challenges. And that's how I got most of my books written, is in these short little bursts where I draft them quickly and then I edit them slowly over the course of a year or so. But I can draft, especially my rom-coms, I can draft pretty quickly. And I usually can do it in about 3 days. A rom-com and a fantasy book I can get about half done. So the first iteration is about 30K, and then by the end of the book it's about 80K or so. So this is fast drafting, as it's called, skeleton drafting. We're writing as much as we can, as quickly as we can. And for me, I find that really motivating. It keeps my brain focused. I'm the sort of person who, after 3 days, I just like lose motivation. I'm really bad with routines. If you have ADHD, you might relate to that. If you're someone who, like buys all these journals and notebooks and you're like, I'm gonna write in this every day. And then after 3 days, you're like, okay, never writing in that again. Maybe I need to buy a new notebook. That's the problem. It was the notebook's problem, not my inability to keep up with routines. So for me, 3 days is kind of that sweet spot where I can stay excited and motivated for just about that amount of time. And also, I find that writing in big, intensive bursts is a lot easier for me. It's always the notebook's fault. It is always the notebook's fault. Yeah, and for me, like, I find when I write a lot at once, I can really keep the story consistent. I can keep all the world building in my brain, and so there's not a lot of re-downloading the story, having to go over my plot again, having to be like, "Oh, what was that character's eye color? What was the twist I was setting up?" It's all still in my brain, so I don't even have to reference my notes because I'm doing it over the course of 3 days. So there's a lot of benefit to fast drafting, I think. And also, I love a good writing challenge. Who doesn't love a good writing challenge? And especially in a group with other people, I find it super motivating. I need that body doubling. I like knowing other people are trying to get their work done at the same time. So that's how the 3-day 30K writing challenge started. I was doing it for just on my own for years and years, and then I was like, maybe other people want to do this too. Maybe there's other chaotic writers who want to come join me, and we can do these little short writing challenges together. And there's in November there's lots of like novel writing things that are happening. So this is just a little short one. This is like a little 3-day one. If you don't want to commit to a whole month of writing 1,000 words a day or however much, for me, I would rather write a whole novel in 3 days or part of a novel in 3 days than do a little bit each day of the month. I find it by 2 weeks in, I'm like, okay, well, I want to be done by now and on to the next idea, or I'm ready to start editing and slowing down with the drafting. So, yes. So if you're doing novel writing in November and are midway through the month on the 15th when our challenge starts and are behind and want some motivation to catch up, come join us as well. So the Discord group, if you're not in it already, is linked in the description of this live. So feel free to come join us. There's lots of great little resources, great group of people, and there's sprints that are going on all the time in there. And we're going to be doing sprints every day throughout the challenge as well. So right now we're about 3 weeks out from the challenge. So now's the time to start getting ready. And so I thought I'd talk you through some of the things I'm doing and some advice for setting yourself up for success so that you can achieve the end, hit the end, and succeed at this challenge. So the first thing, and this goes without saying, but is setting a challenge goal, is goal setting. So for me, my goal is to write 30,000 words over the course of 3 days. I'm going to be drafting a brand new book. I'm going to be uh, drafting the second book in my new dark sapphic fantasy series. The first book is called Dreamslayer, and that's coming out next year with Harper Voyager. And I'm currently in the process of doing the developmental edits for Dreamslayer Book One, and that's due like 3 days before this challenge starts. So I will be really in the zone of Book One when the challenge happens. So when Book Two rolls around. So I'm going to be drafting book two during this challenge. So that's the book I want to work on. So the first goal, pick the story that you want to work on, and then pick your word count goal. Now, 30K is a challenging goal for me, and I do this all the time. So 30K is probably not the ultimate goal for everyone. It depends how quickly you write and how much practice you have, how well you know the story that you're going to be working on. So in the 3-day 30K workbook that we have, that you can find posted, it's pinned in the resources channel of the Discord group, and totally free. Everybody can grab one if they want, and you can print it out. I've printed mine out in like a little workbook notebook because I'm a sucker for stationery. I love a good sticker moment and a little workbook moment. So I have mine printed out this way, but one of the pages in there is this little like choose your adventure sheet, and it has different word count goals in there. So, and it also has a little advice on how to test what word count goal would be right for you. So, um, what I advise you to do, and if you haven't done yet, now is a great time to hop into the Discord group and do it in the sprint bot as well, and you can do it with other people. But set yourself 3 Pomodoro writing sprints, so 3 25-minute writing sprints on a work in progress that you're working on. Um, and see how much you write in those 25-minute sprints, and then take the average of that, because maybe one you did really fast and one you did quite slow, you were working up into it. So have a go doing that, and then take the average, and then based on that average you can pick like which adventure would be good for you. And of course I had to give them all fun fantasy names because I'm a fantasy nerd. So if you're under 200 words per 25-minute sprint, probably the Bard's Adventure would be a good one for you. So like 6K over the course of 3 days, so 2K per day is probably a good goal for you. Because if you think about it, I think some people pick 30K as their goal because it sounds really fun and ambitious, but they've probably maybe never written more than 1,000 words in a day. So 2,000 words is a lot and that's a big goal for them. And maybe shooting for 10K is is too many to start off with, and you don't want to set yourself up for failure and then be disappointed that you didn't get to your goal. So you want to have something that's like just on the line of, it seems like it's going to be hard, it's going to be a challenge, and you're going to have to fight for it. But it's not an impossible amount, because if you're only doing 100 words an hour, there's not enough hours in the day to do 10,000 words. So don't set yourself up for failure. Also, only you know what's going on in your day to day life. Like if you're working, if you've got kids at home, if you don't have any support systems, if you can't get away and you're trying to squirrel in little bits of writing sprint time into a very busy day or a very busy weekend, like be kind to yourself and give yourself a smaller goal so that you can still hit it and be excited about that. And all of these adventures that you can choose from, all divide by 30 so that you can fill in your little quest map. So you can be hitting your little quest goals at the same pace as everybody else. So, for me, I'm like about here on day 2. I like to put these little stickers on them, but you can like color them in different things. Um, so that everybody's kind of like hitting their percentage through the challenge at the same time based on whatever their goal is. So the first thing for challenge prep is picking a goal that's like realistic for you, and is still challenging but not impossible. And I think sometimes people get really like, I'm gonna do 30K, and it's like, awesome, how much have you written in a day before? And it's like 500 words. And you're like, okay, wait, maybe a big challenge for you would be like 3,000 words a day, or however much. So have a think about that, have a think about your life and your schedule and how quickly you write, because this is a fast writing challenge. Like the faster you write, the higher your word count goal can be. I don't want people feeling like they have to work for 12 hours straight every day to hit their goals. For me, it's usually like about 6 hours each day of the challenge that I'm drafting to hit that 10K. So that's a pretty good pace for me. Some days is a couple more hours than that, some is less. But for me, it's pretty easy to set aside 3 solid days to work. And then I, work less throughout the rest of the month, because I also homeschool my kids and I've got a lot of other admin, business, author life things going on. So I'm not really sitting and drafting for that many hours ongoing. It's just for these short little challenge bursts. So pick a goal that you think works for you. Let me know in the comments and in the challenge group what challenge you're thinking of doing, like how many words you're planning on writing, and what books you're thinking of working on, because I'm excited to hear about it, and I like hearing what seems like a sizable goal for different people, because this is definitely 30K is something I worked my way up towards. Like I wasn't always drafting that quickly, but also my ADHD really helps me write quickly now that I've figured out how to push aside the hurdles of distractions. And that's that's a challenge too, is all of the hurdles, the mental hurdles and the literal life hurdles we put in our way. So I've had a lot of practice getting over those. So first, set a goal. For me, something that I'm going to be doing that I haven't really talked about with the other challenges before as well is, I'm not usually much of a plotter, but for this challenge, because it's the second book in the series and I've been thinking about what I want to do with it for quite a while, I am going to plot it a lot more than I usually do. But even if you have like a loose scene kind of wish list for the things that you want to write, having a little bit of a sense of where your story's going, even for a pantser, I think will be very helpful for you. So, because of one of the hurdles that I hit with some of these challenges is I kind of finished the bits that I knew, and then I needed to take time to like go away and ideate and brainstorm and think about what I wanted to do next. But of course, when it's a short, really intense writing challenge, you want to keep writing. And so I didn't have as much, like, normally over the course of the year, I would just go for a walk, go have a shower, go think, those kind of thinking times. And I would just stop for the day to keep thinking about where to go next in the story. But when you're trying to write really quickly, you kind of need to be like, okay, and now we're going to the next thing and the next thing. And if you are able to, and have enough kind of intuitive sense of where the story needs to go. You can just keep going even without a roadmap. But for me, I find having like a rough roadmap is a lot easier to write that quickly. So this time I have a whole basically scene list, just bullet point of this is happening in each scene. And I have about 45 scenes that I know I want to be in this book. And because I write when I'm fast drafting about like less than 1,000 words per scene, and and when the book is finished, it'll be about 2,000 words. So I'm really fast drafting the scene, meaning I'm not adding heaps of detail. There's not a lot of world building yet. There might be some dialogue. Sometimes I'll just write in like fix this dialogue and leave myself little notes. Fix this for later. Keep going. You know, it's all about momentum for me. So um all of those notes in there. So because I know that that's like less than 1,000 words per scene, I need more than 30 scenes to hit 30K in 3 days. So now I'm doing a little bit of that math as well to make sure that I have enough ideas to write to hit that word count goal. So if you are somebody who has that kind of brain, like doing a little bit of that math might help you as well, to figure out how many scenes would I need to write, to make sure that and how many words would I need in each scene to make sure I hit whatever my goal is. So if your goal is to write 9K over the course of 3 days, how much would you need to write each day, and how much would you need to write in each scene? And do you have enough story idea bandwidth to get you there? So that was a big thing for me. So I'm doing that this time and having my little scene list ready to go so that I can hit the ground running. And I've also given myself a lot of lead in time up to this challenge, and that these next 3 weeks before the challenge starts, I'm going to be thinking a lot about this book but not writing it. And I feel like that's kind of good. That kind of build up of it's almost like torturing yourself a little bit of, okay, I really want to dive into this world. I really want to write that scene, but I'm not allowed to yet. And I'm just keep thinking about it and leaving myself notes about it and continuing to kind of like motivate myself so that I've, in the same way that I think like, athletes might run their race in their brain ahead of time, I'm kind of like mentally preparing myself to write this book so that when it's time to, I'm ready to hit the ground running. So use the next 3 weeks to really think about uh, what the story is going to be, what you're going to be writing. Leave yourself lots of notes, set up that roadmap in your mind so that when the challenge comes, you're ready to go. Um, and then with physical things, have print out your workbook if you want to, or grab your digital copy. So all of these are in the Discord group, and you can print them out. I was thinking of eventually maybe even like printing these properly in like a nice little spiral bound notebook for people who want to like buy them and don't want to print them themselves. But I wanted to make sure that it was also like free and accessible for everyone who wanted it. So it's pinned in the resources group of the Discord group. This is basically like just a chaotic workbook of all the things that I found helpful, useful, motivating, the things that keep me going. And I've collected and collated all of the tools, all of my chaotic tools, from like little games to motivations to dopamine menus, coloring pages, everything, so that it's all in one place and you don't need to use all of it, but depending on your motivation style and the things that you find interesting, have a play with it, and hopefully there'll be some resources in there for you that you will find useful during the challenge. So have a go with that, print that out. And then the first thing I do, usually a few days before the challenge starts, is I fill out this little kind of intentions page, the very first page. This workbook belongs to me. This is my one from when I did the Hold Your Horses 3-day 30K. So my word count for that one was smaller. It was just 21K, just, I say, though it was still really hard work getting to 21K because that was revisions. But the most important thing, I think, is the bottom bit. That's why I'm doing this challenge. And I know it's kind of like a little bit cheesy and corny, setting intentions and answering the question of why you're doing this. But I think this is good for any sort of challenge, whether it's like running a race or doing anything that's hard that you're committing to. Whenever you set yourself a challenge, there's always going to be, just like in our books that we write, like a dark night of the soul, there's always going to be some moment where you go, why am I doing this? I don't have to do this. I don't want to be doing this. And you just kind of like hit a wall at some point. And usually for me, it's the middle day, the second day of this challenge, where I go, why am I doing that? I don't have to do this. Um, and then I look at this thing that I've written, and so for Hold Your Horses, it was, now is the time I've set aside to work on this book, and I want this story to exist in the world, and I'm excited to share it with my readers. So those were my two whys, and logically, I know that for me, this is one of the best ways I can get my books done, because I'm very good at procrastination. I'm a pro at dragging my feet. And so for me, going like, no, we're gonna set aside this time. I know I've cleared my schedule. This is the only thing I'm committing to. I'm not going to be on socials. I'm not going to be doing anything else, because I can't do that all the time ongoing, but I can do it for 3 days, like once every few months. I can set aside 3 solid days to just focus on this one thing. Um, and I know that I get a lot more done that way when I'm not pulled in a bunch of different directions. So for me, I know that logically this is a good way of writing for my brain. But I still need that reminder when things get hard. You know, we forget in the moment why we're doing the things we're doing. Hello, welcome, welcome. So yes, so writing down those intentions, I feel like that's really good for when times get hard. And then, like, kind of with the intentions as well, like prepping your mindset for draft mode, because most of us go from, um, whatever we're doing in our writing career. It might be, we might be marketing a book right now. I'm marketing. Which way am I pointing? Both ways. It's on both sides. A Heart of Crimson Flames, which is coming out next week. So I'm in like full speed marketing mode, which I feel like is a different hat to wear. You know, it's a very different brain than drafting. And I'm also going through my developmental edits, and editing is a very different mindset than marketing, than drafting for me. And so when you're editing, you're being intentionally hypercritical of your work, right? So you're thinking, is this the best way I can say this? Is this word right? Is the flow of this sentence and this paragraph, does this interrupt the story? So you're thinking in that sort of brain, and all of those questions when you're drafting can be massive roadblocks to getting the words out. And so the first iteration of the words on the page can be really stifled by all of those editing sort of questions. So moving into drafting mindset is all about momentum. It's all about fix this later. This is a problem for future me. Maybe I don't like the way this fight scene is going. I'm going to leave myself a note, fix this fight scene when I'm editing later. Like, or is this the name I want to give this character? I don't know. Leave myself a note, fix it later. We're moving on. We're on to the next scene. And it's all about that momentum and not letting all of those questions and thoughts stop you from the next idea and the next scene. And so it's kind of like, in the same way, there's this thing where comedians, like on Saturday Night Live, and like improv comedians will talk about just embracing like bombing, where like they're just not doing well, the show or the skit is not landing the way they want to, and they know it's not going according to plan, and they just have to kind of like soak in it, like just embrace the fact that it's not going the way they want it to, and they just keep going anyway. And I think writers need to do that sometimes when you're drafting, where the words are just, for whatever reason, you're not in flow, the words are clunky, it feels like your brain's walking through cement, and you just got to keep going and pushing through and just go, I will fix these words later. future me will make these words beautiful. Like this sentence isn't the final sentence. This is the scaffolding that I will build this great story upon. But I need to get these words on the page in order to fix them because you can't fix a blank page. And so leaning into that and knowing that the flow is on the other side of that sticky point. So usually like within half an hour or so of just embracing the poor writing and the clunky words and the sticky brain feeling, on the other side of that, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I never thought I would write that. Oh, I like that joke or I like this moment. And all of a sudden you're starting to find flow again. But if you're not willing to push through and over that hurdle, you never get to that point. So embracing the first draft, knowing that the first draft isn't going to be the final product. And I think that especially for newer writers, that can be really hard because when you're like daydreaming your book, it's the final product of a book in your brain. It's not the first draft of the book. And so the disconnect between this beautiful daydream in your mind and the words that come out on the page is so vast that it can be really hard to get the first draft down because it's usually not anywhere near what it's going to be when it's done. It's going to be so much more beautiful and epic and logical, and the plot structure is going to be tighter and all of these things, but the vision in your head and the words on the page are usually very different, especially from the first draft. And also if you're comparing to, your favorite book that you're reading, like you're reading a final draft of a book and then writing the first draft. If we got to read our favorite authors' first drafts of their book, I think we'd be kinder to ourselves when we're drafting because we'd realize like, oh, this is not the first iteration of their work. This is the very, very polished kind of final version of it. So um, having that mindset, having that curiosity mindset, beginner mindset, being willing to just get stuck in and figure it out on the fly and know that it's going to be okay, even if it's not perfect. I think a lot of us are reformed perfectionists, and that can be really hard. So embracing the drafting mindset, now is the time to start preparing that because it does take a while to get into that zone. It's not like a switch you can flip necessarily. Um, and then the other thing for preparing for this challenge, gathering of supplies, which I still need to do. Some of them I already have, like my sprint timer, huge for me. I love my sprint timer. It is, what's the app called? I believe it's called the Forest app. This is it. And you have options of like different little like plants you can grow, which I love. And you slowly watch them grow, and you can set the app to not show you any other notifications of things. And then after you grow a certain number of plants, so after you do enough sprints, you can donate money to plant real trees, which I think is awesome. So it has tricked my brain into thinking I'm doing something good. And sometimes that's all I need is just that little bit of extra motivation of going, okay, well, I'm doing something good for the world by planting these trees. So, I guess I'll do one more sprint. So assembling supplies like your sprint timer. In the 3-day 30K notebook, I have a whole checklist for you if you need ideas, but you'll know kind of the things that you find the most motivating as well. Like, here we go. Where is my list? So there's like a whole packing checklist. I'm inverse. All of the different things you could need from like your laptop and notebooks, pens, pencils, highlighters, power banks if you're going to the library all day or things like that. Flashcards, earplugs, fidgets. Big things for me are my water bottle. Gotta have at least 2 drinks ongoing at all times around me, usually 3. So I'll usually have a coffee, a water, and some sort of like sparkling water flavored beverage going at all times. Stay hydrated, important. And then I also have like different brain snacks, like sour food. I find like sour gummy worms is a really good one for ADHD. Something about the sour gets our brains working. But that's the same with a lot of different um, kind of physical shifts. So, like going from hot to cold, like people who do cold plunges or, go for a swim or something like that can re-jog your brain. Um, having a snack, doing those sorts of things, eating spicy food or really sour food can kind of just help us re-jog our brains. Um, so if you are a neurodivergent person and you already have your favorite kind of stims and tools and things, make sure that you have baskets of those assembled. I love sour candies and have all the yes, you get me. I said, and there's science behind it. The sour candies work for our brains. Um, but there's whatever your tools are, make sure you assemble them. It's only for the course of 3 days, so like go nuts on the things that you really love. Like for me, I quite like having a candle, like a nice scent, just like cozy things. I think that self-care when you're doing this amount of writing is really important because the goal isn't to be like crawling across the finish line and feeling burnt out at the end of this challenge. And I think that that's something that, um, like it's like this is so not a like boot camp where like let's torture ourselves for 3 days. I think that some people find that motivating. If you do, I'm sure you can tweak the challenge to be that way for you. Some people like to have the kind of boot camp drill sergeant sort of motivation style. But then for a lot of us too, I think we need like kindness to our nervous system. So, having a nice scented candle, having some fuzzy socks or a cozy hoodie or some nice cute things. If you are motivated by rewards and little prizes, having those set for yourself, there's like a whole bunch of suggestions in the workbook of different rewards you can grab yourself that you can just grab at like the dollar store. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. I need a mix of drill sergeant and gentle parenting myself. We joked about maybe one day doing this writing retreat in person, doing like an in-person 3-day 30K and having like two rooms where if you sit in this room, you want the like kind of drill sergeant motivation. And if you move to this room, you want the gentle parenting motivation. And so you can move between depending on what you need. So like if you go to this room, one of the kind of like author mentors in that room will be like, hey, focus, like put your phone down, and if you go to this room, we'll be like, would you like a cup of tea? Like, do you need a snack? How are you doing? Do you want a blanket? And just kind of that like gentle loving. And then if you're finding like, oh no, I need a little bit more, like, hey, get your work done, I'll move to the other room again. Like, doesn't that sound so good? Yeah. I'm gonna try and make that happen maybe next year because I think it would just be so good for people. And then we could do the rewards in a really fun way. Because right now, most of us, if we want to get little rewards for this challenge, we're buying them for ourselves. But if we did this challenge in person, I could get all the little gifties for everyone so you wouldn't know what they are. And I'd wrap them all up. So when you got to your second challenge goal of the day, you could come and then unwrap your next little gift. And so I think that would be super motivating for people, even if it's just little things like keychains or, something like a new notebook or a new pen or something like that, not knowing what your next gift is going to be, I think would be really fun. And I know for me, I would definitely do way more work because I'm like, well, I want to unwrap a present. I know. Okay, I'll do 500 more words before I go to bed. I want to unwrap the fuzzy socks or whatever it is. So making it fun, gamifying. I think a lot of us are motivated by gaming and kind of gamifying things. So yes, but I would love to do that. I have someone wrapping my rewards, so I don't know what I'm gonna get. Oh, I love that. Yes, if you have someone in your life who can do that for you, that is so awesome. That would be really fun. Where would the in-person challenge be? As of right now, I'm thinking probably Australia because I'm in Australia, somewhere in Australia. But eventually, I'd love to travel. So it would be really fun to do it in some cool destination places, maybe somewhere like some nice beachy place. Maybe the thing is, it can't be anywhere that has too much going on. Otherwise, we'd all get too distracted and want to go do things. So I feel like it needs to be, like a cabin in the mountains sort of vibes, but maybe not too far from like town and supplies for people who want to run out and get things. So yeah, that kind of size place. But I would love to travel around and do it in more different countries too. Next year and the year after, well, actually every year I'm going, hopefully in the future, fingers crossed, I'm going to try and make a trip over to Europe to go see my best friend and co-author Kale Morrison, who I write the Maple Hollow books with, because she's just moved to the Netherlands. Um, and you know how it is with long distance friends. Like I can't go too long without seeing her. Like basically, we've written our co-authored series together to fund our ability to see each other, and buy plane tickets to go to go visit each other more often. But I think that would be really fun to do a writing challenge in all the countries that we go visit, because that's what we do when like when I'm on holiday, I'm writing. Like that's fun for me. So I would love to set up, how cool would it be if we got, a house somewhere in the Netherlands or in like Germany or Paris, or maybe not Paris because there's too many other cool things to go do, but somewhere in France or Tuscany, or something like that would be really cool. So um who knows, maybe we can manifest that for the future and slowly like go different places. Like I'd love to go to Canada. I used to live in Guatemala. I'd love to go back to Central America. So yeah, maybe that becomes a thing. Maybe that's something that we do like once a year, different places in the world. And I think for a lot of us that would be like our one book a year. If we're trying to get one book done a year, we could draft it together once a year over the course of 3 days, and then work on it editing throughout the course of the year. And then if we needed to work more on revisions, we could do one of the online challenges as well. So anyway, those are big dreams, big plans for the future. Hopefully, we'll see. Um, but I do have dates roughly set aside for next year. I'm thinking we're going to do 5 of these writing challenges next year for people, so people can come and jump in. Depending on how much writing they're trying to get done. Like if you're trying to write a 90K fantasy book, you could get that whole book done in 3 challenges, potentially, depending on which size challenge you're doing, or if you're doing a smaller challenge over the course of 5. So I wanted to make it accessible to people, and also selfishly, it's good, helpful for me because I get so much writing done during these challenges, and I always look forward to them, especially because I've been traveling a lot for book events and conferences and speaking at different things, and it's very hard to get writing done when you're traveling. But I haven't been stressing out because I've known that these challenges are coming up. And I think it's so nice having that, like, it's going to be okay. I'm going to write it in November. Like, I've got these dates set aside. So that's been huge for me, just knowing, like, okay, I'm going to have 5 challenges next year that I can get this book done in. And it'll be okay, So, yes, and I'll post those dates in the group after this November challenge for next year. But I think that will be really good. And I think other people look forward to the chance to have those days and the motivation of just like other people trying to get work done at the same time as you. So that will be really good. And then I think it's also nice that the group then kind of has this like fallow period where we just let everybody kind of chill and rest and go off on their own. A lot of us are introverted, and so we have a lot going on, and then we want to go away and just kind of into our little like cabins, mental cabins in the woods, and just work on our edits for a few months, and then we come back and we're ready to draft another bit of our story. um so yeah, and then I only have one more bit for my game plan, and then if anybody has any questions or anything for me as well, let me know in the comments, and I will be happy to answer those as well. It doesn't have to be about the challenge; could be about anything. I think a lot of us, just need an author friend to ask publishing questions to and writing questions to. And I love answering them. So if you have any questions about anything, let me know in the comments and I will answer those as well. But the last thing for challenge prep for the 3-day 30K is having a game plan of what you're going to do, like letting everyone know in your life that needs to know that you're going to be not answering messages as often, you're going to be offline. Hey, maybe I'm not going to be, going out to the movies this weekend or doing a whatever it may be. If you're a parent, and have a partner, letting your partner know, or having, family member babysitters coming in and helping out, so that you can focus on writing. For me, I'm definitely going to be going to the library. We have a new library in our town, and I find I get a lot more work done when I'm around other people who are quietly trying to work too. I really like that physical body doubling, but also I'm going to be doing a lot of digital body doubling as well. So I'm planning on having a Zoom call each day in the Discord group, so that people can hop on a Zoom and we can do some Zoom writing sprints together. And then also, um, I'm thinking of doing some more YouTube lives and doing some sprints on YouTube as well for anybody who wants to body double, doing a YouTube live as well. So that is my game plan for the challenge, is making sure that I have that external accountability of other people because I need that, because if nobody's watching, that's usually when I start to go like, oh, well, I could just, I mean, doing 6,000 words in a day is still a lot. I don't need to do 10,000. And then I start talking myself out of my goals. I'm good at convincing myself, the little devil on my shoulder that's going, like, well, you don't have to do the thing that you really wanted to do, and so for me, I need that external accountability and knowing that, like, everybody else is also trying to get their work done, so I'm going to keep working too. And I really benefit from that body doubling. So having a good game plan is the last thing. And if you need any help or reminders of all of these things as well, it's all, oh gosh, my stickers have gone everywhere. Chaotic Writers Club. I've really put it into the into the title. Chaos. It's chaos. Anyway, it's all in the workbook. So, there's checklists, there's advice, there's lots of things. It's very neurodivergent because I'm an ADHD author. So I have lots of neurodivergent advice in here, and hacks. And even if you aren't neurodivergent, I think that a lot of these tools might be useful for you if you are someone who has a busy life and is trying to fit your writing into it, because a lot of the writing advice out there is not really designed for our chaotic lives. A lot of it is very like, okay, well, sit in the garden for an hour each morning and have your wife bring you a cup of tea and and write 2,000 words and don't leave until you get your 2,000 words done. And a lot of us can't do that. A lot of us don't have that kind of life. And so having different tools and different strategies and basically a whole menu, a whole buffet of different ideas, I think is really helpful. So I've amalgamated all of those there with lots of different tips for you. So that is the workbook. You can find that in the Discord group. And if not, you can make your own as well. If you have like a list of ideas of things that you find useful, you can make your own lists as well. So yeah. Anyway, that is that. And if you have any questions, let me know and I will be happy to answer them. All right, we've got one here. Do you aim? Ooh, oh, look, you can click on things. Look, I'm learning things as I go. Do you aim for different word counts for the different genres you write in, or do they all average about the same word count? And does that ever change your challenges? Yeah, that's a great question. I do. I usually have the same word count goal for the challenge of writing 30,000 words if I'm drafting. If I'm revising, I usually have a shorter word count goal, or I'll switch to an hour goal instead of a word count. So like all of the challenges in here can also be translated into hours worked. So like working 6 hours or 9 hours or however many hours over the course of 3 days too, if you're revising, because sometimes revising your almost taking more words out than you're adding in. So setting a word count goal could be very unmotivating because you're like two steps forward, one step back with that. But when I'm drafting, I usually set a 30K goal regardless. But what I find is when I'm writing rom-coms, I need more scenes to get to that 30K goal than with fantasy. Because fantasy, I'm creating the whole world, there's a lot more descriptions, there's a lot more world building to give people to paint a picture of what the world looks like for people. Like in a rom-com, if you say people are in New York, you've already got somewhat of a picture in your mind. You don't need to like go into like the yellow sheen of the cab is this vehicle with the wheel, it's like you can just say taxi. People know people know what that means. There's a shorthand there. So quite often there's less of that. And also from my author voice, my fantasy tends to sound different to me in my mind as I'm writing it. So it's almost like a different accent in my brain. So fantasy for me is more lilting, there's longer sentences, there's bigger paragraphs. If you look at like the word economy on the page, my rom-coms have more white space in them because it's very dialogue and stream of consciousness heavy. Whereas the fantasy tends to have more external descriptions as well. So even though I might set a 30K goal for both a rom-com and a fantasy book when I'm drafting them over this challenge, I will have with the rom-com, I'll usually draft the whole thing in 30K words, whereas a fantasy I might get through the first third by drafting 30K. So very, very different from like the kind of skeleton drafting, fast drafting perspective. How do you fast draft without getting hung up on the tiny details? My ADHD likes everything to be perfect before moving on. Oh gosh, I relate to this so much. And the biggest thing for me has been practice and reminders. It's kind of like a muscle you have to flex a bunch to get good at, I think, for me, because I, for a very long time, would get so hung up on my books that I'd never finished them. I had like a decade of books that I just would never finish because I would get too hung up in the minutia and not be able to move on. So for me, it needs to be front of mind, constant reminder of like, we'll fix it later, we'll fix it later. And so I leave myself lots of notes as kind of like this is you come back and do this later. So if I don't like the dialogue or if I don't like the description or if I feel like something's missing, I'll leave myself a note in the page and just say, come back and fix this later. This is like my first attempt at something. Like the first draft for me, I know is not going to be the final version. Like a lot of the words still stay in there. Some of the sentences stay completely unchanged at the end, but most of it is tweaked and fiddled with and built upon and things are changed. I find better dialogue, I find better descriptions as I go, as I layer it in. And so for me, it's a lot of practice of reminding myself, like, fix it later, leave myself notes for later, come back and do this later. Um, and it's all about momentum. Next thing, next step. And sometimes with ADHD, you can help trick yourself by setting a timer and doing things like that. That sense of like urgency can kind of supersede your perfectionism. And so then you can go like, okay, well, I got to get to the next thing. So I'll just leave that for now and I'll jump to the next scene. And so that can really be helpful as well. Ooh, what are your least favorite scenes to write? How do you push through these scenes? I really struggle with writing slower, less plot heavy scenes. Yes, I can totally relate to that. And actually, the scenes I don't like writing can really depend on the mood I'm in. Like, sometimes I just really don't want to write an emotional scene if I'm not feeling like emotive, or I don't want to write a spicy scene or a fight scene or different things like action scenes sometimes. And then sometimes for me, it's like a very dialogue heavy scene, or like in fantasy, I read a lot of books with questing where people are traveling. And so there's usually moments where people are just kind of walking through the forest, getting from cool action point to cool action point. And so for me, it's about how do I make the walking through the forest scene interesting. And I think that that is the key is how do you make it fun for yourself? What's something that you can add in there? And actually there's some like cool ways to gamify that I've added in where it's like a roll the dice situation into this workbook. Here, let me show you. But for me, it's like kind of finding like what do I need to put in the scene to make it really interesting and fun. So I have this like roll for flow, and you just roll a d20 and or just like pick a number, random number generator, and it'll give you something like describe a character's body language in a way you haven't before is one, or like add a red herring to throw your readers off, or different things like that. And even if you don't keep it in the scene, just thinking like how could I add this into the scene suddenly makes it new and fun again. And then that like little challenge that you've set yourself can be a fun way to like make the scene more interesting, because the thing is, if you find a scene boring, your readers will probably find it boring too, right? So it's like, even if it's a scene that you know is necessary, how can you make it important to you and exciting? So is there like if it's a romance, maybe there's like a moment of like a brief touch of hands, or a longing look or something where it's like this is mostly exposition, this is mostly moving characters from point A to point B, but the moment that the readers are going to remember about the scene is the moment where she caught him looking at her from afar, or whatever it may be. um and so it's like how can you have that little like dopamine moment in your scene to make it exciting for you to write and for your reader to read. There's a brilliant author, Theodora Taylor, who has a whole book about, what's it called, I think it's like million-dollar fiction or something, but it's all about adding these like hits of dopamine. She calls them butter to the scene. Like, what are these tropes that are added to moments that make us really excited and the readers really care about the story? And so, what are these like just really juicy details that you can add to a scene? And so, I think that makes it fun for you and for the reader. So finding new ways to go about that. And then if it's just a executive dysfunction thing where you're like, I just can't get motivated. I want to write the scene. I think it's an exciting, compelling scene, but I just can't get motivated. That's when I think more of those like ADHD tools come in, of like body doubling, setting of short timer. So like gang 7-figure fiction. Thank you. Um, yes, such a good book. Definitely highly recommend. Um, and I'm so sad I'm late. Don't worry, I'm going to post this on YouTube so you can watch it later as well. So don't worry, I will save all of this for everyone. Um, but still glad to make it to the live. I do have a question though. Have you ever tried dictation for fast drafts? Oh, that's a great question. I haven't done dictation before. I've attempted it once, but the problem is I live a very noisy life. I I have, I homeschool my kids. There's always people around. There's very few times where I'm just on my own and able to dictate. And I've thought about maybe going for a walk or something and dictating, but then there's always like where I live, there's always a bunch of other people around, and I think a lot of the things I write could not be said aloud to crowds of people, especially like spicy scenes and stuff. Um, I often will dictate like emails and stuff though, like the first draft of an email or a note to people. So I do feel like I could I could potentially do that, but I don't know. Has anybody else tried dictation? I'd be interested to know. I feel like that would be really good for especially people who might have like arthritis or have like trouble with their hands or sore wrists and things like that, or you know trouble sitting at a desk for too long, being able to dictate. I could see that being something I do more in the future too. Um, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if I could sit and dictate. I think if I was sitting, I'd want to write, but if I was walking, I might dictate more. I have a very loud life too. I have a 10-month-old baby who is obsessed with helping me on my computer. Oh, but we go on walks every day. I've been considering dictating so I can write again. Oh, I love that idea. Oh man, I've been there with like trying to I one of my books, I the first few chapters I wrote with like my thumb in a phone note as I was like nursing a baby and just like I need to get this idea down. And so I was just like typing it with my thumb on my phone. And I feel like dictating would be a much smarter way of doing that because I really messed up my wrist doing that. So but I love that idea. I think that's a great idea. To go for a walk and dictate it. Yeah. Let me know how that goes because I think that's really cool. Yeah, for me, I really do feel like my thoughts come out of my fingers. Does that sound weird? That sounds weird, but you know what I mean. Like I feel like I the words I so associate with typing that sometimes I can't conceptualize them verbally as so much as I can physically on the page in the way I see them. That's really interesting because also I don't look at the computer a lot because I have binocular vision dysfunction, and so the words on the page kind of blend together for me. They don't look like separate words as easily, so I really have to focus when I'm editing and staring at the words on the page. Um, so when I'm drafting, I'm usually like looking off somewhere and I'm kind of seeing it through the way that it feels on my fingers. I used to play piano growing up, and so I feel like it's very similar in that way of like thinking with my fingers. Yeah. Anyway, interesting. That's really cool, but I'd love to hear how dictation goes for you, because, yeah, I know a lot of friends who dictate. I don't know what you mean. I feel like my brain moves too fast for my mouth sometimes. Yes, totally, and sometimes I find, I like, with my neurodivergence as well, like, sometimes I find I lose my words in a way that I don't with I'm still thinking them, but they just don't get to my mouth the same way as they can get to my fingers. And so sometimes it's just one more hurdle for me to get them out, if that makes sense. So yeah, but yeah, I think dictation is a great way to go for a lot of people, definitely. And I do think too, there's something about walking for me that I think is walking is great for brainstorming and for thinking. And I actually do these writing sprints that I think are super effective for people with ADHD, where I will go to a park or somewhere that has lots of places to sit, and I will go for a walk like along the esplanade. And every time I see a free table, I'll sit and write like 200 words, and then I'll get up and keep walking until I find the next table. And something about that hits a lot of different things. Like you're outside, you're getting exercise, you're walking, so your brain's working a little bit better because of that um, ambulatory movement. And then it's a game too. So you've had the gamification element of like, okay, every time, drop and give me 200 words. Um, and so then it's like, oh well, in my brain, I'm like, I've ticked all these boxes. I've gotten some sunshine, I've gotten some walking time exercise, and I've gotten some writing done. So it's like it tricks my brain into thinking like this is a really good productive time. And then it's like, how fast can I get the next words done? And the key with that though is to not check your phone in between the tables that you stop and write at, because I think and it's the same with writing sprints. If you're going to do like 3 pomodoros or something, don't, in those little 5-minute breaks between pomodoro sprints, stop and pick up your phone, because the second you do, you're in like, I gotta reply to this email. Oh my gosh, did you see that the news about this thing? And your brain is so out of the story and in all of these other places, and you've given part of your focus to all of these other things. So putting your phone in timeout for writing. And this is another reason why I really like these 3-day challenges, is because I can put my phone away for 3 days. I can't be that unplugged from marketing, from social media, from all of the things to run my author business every day ongoing. And so for me, I find it very easy to just kind of like miss out for 3 days and then plug back in. than to try and stay unplugged until I get the writing done each day. I know a lot of authors that do that. There's a lot of coaching, writing coaching advice that says don't check your phone until you've gotten your writing done. But for a lot of us, that we just can't make that happen with our schedules and different things. And for me too, because my main publisher is in the US, a lot of the things that need to be answered before they're offline for the day are in my morning. So I need that. I need that morning time, and I usually post on socials in the morning, and then I'm kind of done for the day with my marketing. The marketing box is ticked. So, but I can stop for 3 days. I can unplug for 3 days. That's a short enough amount of time that I'm not like missing any important news or things. So, um, I think that's really important as well because I think we all know how it feels when you just see, like, an upsetting piece of news or video or something, and then all of a sudden you are unable to, like, plug back into your story, especially too if it's a huge tonal shift. Like, it's hard to write a very lighthearted rom-com when you've seen something that's like really upsetting on the news or things like that. So protecting your mindset is almost impossible to do every day ongoing in this day and age, I think. But being able to do it for a couple of days at least is something that I think we can, yeah, at least strive to achieve. I'm ADHD too. Yay! I feel like a lot of writers are ADHD. Something about the creativity and the storytelling. I feel like a lot of ADHD people are natural storytellers. So there's a huge overlap in our communities. And yet there's not a lot of ADHD writing advice out there. Interestingly, I find that a lot of the kind of traditional writing advice and marketing and publishing advice is very neurotypical, interestingly enough. So, I'm always out there trying to like to encourage people to do things in a more ADHD friendly way. Um, I used to do that with coffee shops when I was in college. Oh, I love that. I'm just trying new writing tactics to try and fit it in my life. The moving to different places to sit really might really work. Oh, cool. Yeah, give that a go. Yeah, I feel like that's the thing too with both ADHD and just with authors in different phases of our life is that every year we need new tools. Like it always baffles me of some of my neurotypical friends who the thing that worked for them last year still works for them this year. Like all the routines and tools and strategies that worked for them 10 years ago and they're still doing now. And I'm like, man, to be able to be that consistent, that's really cool. Because I don't have that at all. Like like I'll circle back to things like I go through crafting phases and hobbies that I get into and then I abandon and then I come back to again. But, like the tools and strategies that work for me in my brain are constantly changing. And so I need to come have like a whole toolkit so that when one drops off, it's like, oh, this for a good solid 6 weeks, this strategy was working so well and I was doing it every day. I was getting so much done. And then inevitably that fizzles out. And then I need the new thing. And so having a whole toolkit so that when this one drops, I can grab the next one is just like so valuable to me. I think it's really important to have multiple strategies and especially for different phases of life too, right? Because sometimes when you have a certain job and then you switch jobs and then you need a new routine or you become a parent or you have all of these new responsibilities, you need new tools and strategies for each phase of life and each book too, because some books really make you fight for it. Like some books are just the stubborn one that really makes you have to work a different way. And even if you've written dozens of books, sometimes different books are sticky in different ways and you need new strategies to um, tackle that new problem. So having a whole toolkit and not being too beholden to any one thing, I think this is a big thing too. This is a little bit of my soapbox, but I think that I meet a lot of new authors who haven't finished their first book yet, who have a process and they're like, this is my process. This is how I do things. And I'm like, oh, cool. How many books have you written? And they'll say, I'm working on my first one. And I'm like, well, like, hear me out. Maybe we need to hang on a little looser to the concept of a process and that each book and each year and each phase of life, we're going to need a different process. And that after a certain number of books, you might notice patterns that will help you develop what is conceptually a process, a writing process. But I think that sometimes I'll meet people who almost hang on to the idea of their process as like a it's like a safety net, right, for them, and, will say, "Oh, no, I could never do that, I could never try this, I can't do all these things, no, no, no," to all of this stuff because they're like, "This is my process, and I have to do it this way, and I've decided that this is the way it should be done." But I think for a lot of them, it's because 'cause they're afraid of the next step and what it would mean to let go of that. So hang on loosely to those ideas, and be curious about what other things you can do to help yourself and get to the end of your books. Oh my gosh, that would be so nice to have consistency like that. You get me. I've written every book in a different way because my brain is constantly needing new ways to do things. I love that. That's really cool. That's literally what I'm going through. I've been trying and trying and trying to write like I used to pre-burnout, pre-baby. Yeah, and I just came to terms with letting go of having one set process. That's awesome. I mean, that's huge. Congratulations for getting there. Because I think that a lot of us, it's a huge struggle, especially to reflect on ourselves, because we can see it in each other, but it's much harder when it's you and you're this close to it to realize that's what's happening. But yeah, I mean, like when my kids were little, like they're a bit bigger now, but when they were babies, that was I needed totally different strategies than I need now. Needed different strategies before kids than I need now, and, like, life is different, your hormones are different, the amount of energy, the amount of sleep you have, the amount of free time, the amount of brainstorming time you have, you know, it's just totally different, and so going like, "Okay, well, I used to" there was a phase in my life where I'd write 2,000 words a day, and I'd write really slowly, but I thought that's what I had to do, and so that was what I did. And now I'm like, okay, well, maybe I don't have to do that. Maybe I can maybe I can do things differently. And I think it's really good to have the freedom to try new things and to always be curious about what the next goal and next challenge is. So, yeah, that's awesome. Oh, well, I'm getting really excited. Getting excited for this challenge. I can't wait. It's going to be really fun. We've got almost like 500 people in the 3-day 30K Discord group now, which is bananas to me. So if you joined, thank you for being a part of that. And it's so cool. I just love it so much. I love that there's a space for all of us to like just get together and get some writing done. And at the end of the day, the goal of the group is to just do more together than you could do on your own. So, whatever that means for you, if it's 100 words, or 30,000, however many it is just, like, let's get some writing done together and let's set aside some time for our stories. So, I'm very excited. I can't wait to hear how everybody goes. And I'm gonna hop off now and go do some weekend parenting things. So I can't wait for the challenge. And thanks everybody for coming to the first live. This was great. And I hope to do more of these and some more Chaotic Writers Club and more answering questions and things. So yeah. Awesome. All right. See you guys.